Good afternoon, everyone. I am Montgomery County Council President Gabe Albornoz, and we are here with another legislative briefing. This one will be to discuss federal priorities for 2022 and federal earmarks for FY23. I'll turn it over to Ms. Wellens, who's staffing this for us, and then she will turn it over to Ms. Winger after that. Ms. Wellens.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Thank you and good afternoon, council members. As you said before, you have for your potential approval and your review some federal priorities of the county for 2022, as well as county departmental requests for federal earmarks for FY23. Both of those items are due to the congressional delegation on April 6th. As you said, we have the Office of Intergovernmental Relations here as well. We also have Director Conklin, we have Director Hutchberg, and others from the Executive Branch Department joining us to answer questions. And I'm actually going to ask my colleague, Ms. Chen, to walk you through the packet. Thank you, Mr. President.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Chen. We're in good hands. Thank you for joining us. And just some housekeeping, colleagues. Council Vice President Glass is not going to be able to join us today, and Councilmember Katz has to jump off at 12:57, but may be able to jump back on at 1:30 if we are still going. So with that, Ms. Chen, I turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carolyn Chen, Legislative Analyst, and on the State Leg team for the Central Council staff. First, wanted to thank so much OIR for all the work that they put in this past week and weekend. I see Melanie and Sarah, and I think the two of you, my goodness. So thank you so much. Today we'll be reviewing the packet. They're all, I'm assuming everyone read over it, and so we can shorten this discussion on the discussion items that are up for input from different council members. Most of the federal legislative priorities, the federal earmark requests for fiscal year 23 were recommended by council staff, with an exception of the Glen Echo Park, which will be up for discussion, as well as Councilmember Friesen's request to add the replenishment of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund as a priority. And in addition, Council Vice President Glass has indicated his support for the approval of the executive branch's recommendation on Glen Echo Park. With that, I will swing that over to Ms. Winger and Ms. Morningstar on any other comments on timing for this council to review and approve. Thank you.
I think that that is pretty descriptive of what's going on here. We have a number of members of the executive agency branches who contributed to the package here. If there are specific questions, and if there needs to want to further discuss Glen Echo, I believe Jamie Cook, Sarah, is on the link here to talk through Glen Echo.
If Jamie's not, Ken is. Ken Hartman is here. So I don't see Jamie. But Ken is here. So Ken, do you want to talk about it? You're on mute.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Council President Albornoz. The Glen Echo Park has been a destination the county has long supported for the last 20 years. We got involved when our congressional, state, and county elected officials were very, very concerned about the deterioration that had happened under the National Park Service's custody. We have spent a lot of money, county, state, and federal together in restoring the park. The county managed the construction projects on the site that revitalized the facilities. In 2018, the Leggett administration signed a 10-year agreement with the Park Service that gave us more, not less, more authority to manage the day-to-day activities. I think folks who were on the council back then remember Mr. Leggett during the federal shutdown having a press conference in Glen Echo saying that because of the investment we had made, because of the day-to-day oversight that we do on site, that we would remove the barriers and operate the park. I think it was his tear down that wall moment at Glen Echo Park. So the new agreement gives us the day-to-day authority to manage the park and the facilities. We do this not just through DGS, but also through our nonprofit partner who raises a lot of money to keep the programs and activities going at the park. And what we're seeking now is a logical next step, something we talked about in the Leggett administration, which is if the county is already funding the maintenance, if it's already managing the day-to-day activity, we really need to get out from under the federal approval and review processes, which can take decades to complete, and seek a transfer of the property from the federal government to the county. The benefit to us right now, the nonprofit partner is engaged in a master planning process for what the future of the park will look like. And one of the most frustrating things is the lack of complete lack of clarity and time frame for what that master plan review would look like through the Park Service, and what they will or will not allow us to do, and what they will require in a review of any future capital facilities or renovations. It's better than it was when we started before Mr. Leggett signed the agreement. It's far away from where we wanted to be, and we are working with our congressional delegation. They are aware of our interest. Our the partnership through Bonnie Casper and others on the board are working very closely with the federal delegation, and we're seeking the council's approval of this item on the list so that we can continue our discussions with our congressional delegation to explore the transfer of the property to the county.
Well, thank you, Ken. I'm going to make a few comments about this because it happens to be a project I know a lot about. This goes back to both the fact that I grew up a half a mile from Glen Echo, and also as the director of the Recreation Department with the Arts and Humanities, then under the department and facilitating contracts. I'm very familiar with Glen Echo's efforts, especially these last 14 years, to get under from what has been crushing bureaucracy at the federal level. And there has been little and frankly no investment from our federal partners in Glen Echo. And I do want to acknowledge the great work of Senator Van Hollen, who has worked over many years to help ensure the parks, the National Park Service has given Glen Echo the resources that it has been able to achieve. And while we've made tremendous strides under the leadership of Katie Berner and her team and the nonprofit foundation that helps fund so much of the various projects, and the arts-based organizations who call Glen Echo home, including Adventure Theater, which are so critically important to all of our respective residents. And I also want to give a lot of credit to Mr. Dice and the Department of General Services, who have been providing really remarkable support to Glen Echo since we took over the maintenance of that from our federal partners, who have done a really great job. And I think for this particular location to meet its full potential, it makes all the sense in the world for the county to be able to assume responsibility. I certainly understand the reservations expressed by staff in the document, because it is undoubtedly true that this is an asset that is aging. But if done right, and there's some visioning exercises going on right now among the foundation in partnership with key community stakeholders, this facility could serve as an economic engine. It can expand on the arts-based activities and serve as a tremendous destination spot regionally, and frankly, up and down the Mid-Atlantic region, not just in the DMV, because when you go on that location, you realize the true uniqueness of that particular environment. And I think that it's in the county's best interest to explore any and all options that we have at our disposal to further make Montgomery County a destination spot regionally for recreation and leisure. There is a lot we can do in that space, and we're inhibited significantly under the current bureaucracy and the construct that's in place. So obviously this, if it does move forward, and it is an if, because this does not prevent us from reevaluating. All this does is it helps ensure that it continues the path that we've already been on for some time, which is to explore getting under from the federal bureaucracy and seeing what we can do with this tremendous asset here in our community. So those are some of my initial thoughts, and I know Councilmember Friedson wanted to make some comments as well and has a motion he'd like to move forward. So I will turn it now over to Councilmember Friedson.
Yeah, appreciate that. I'll just ditto everything that you have said. I had a slightly longer bike ride from where I grew up to the park, but I know for those of us who grew up in the area, and my parents grew up in the area, Glen Echo, has certainly been an important place. And there's been a lot of progress made. There are challenges that remain, and the federal government bureaucracy has been a key part of it. I think you're absolutely right. The foundation and the partnership has been critical, not just as an institution in itself of providing programming and being important stewards of the asset, but as a landlord and as a partner to other nonprofits, because that is one of the key aspects of what this organization and this facility does. We've made significant progress, and I'm glad that you noted Chris Van Hollen. Congressman Raskin has picked up where he left off, and he certainly hasn't left with his staff. We had Joan Kleinman, who we just recognized at the council, who has been at the center of much of it. And I'm glad that you acknowledged David Dice and Ken Hartman, because over many, many years, the county has been actively involved, but we still hit a significant hurdle. We're paying for a lot of the cost, but we don't necessarily have the power to make some of the changes that we would want. And most importantly, we're prohibited in many ways from being able to fully leverage the private sector because of some of the challenges of getting approvals. Understandably, both private foundations, outside local regional businesses, and others have some level of consternation of partnering with the federal government that is not actively involved on the ground like the county is and has been, and like the partnership has been. So again, this doesn't obligate us financially to anything. It allows us to continue on the path that we have been moving forward on. And so for all the reasons that have been stated and all the appreciation that you have acknowledged to the partnership and to the executive branch, to our federal partners, I want to move that we include Glen Echo Park as proposed by the executive in our federal priorities.
We have a motion and a second from Councilmember Katz. Any discussion, colleagues? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of Councilmember Frietson's motion, please raise your hands. And that is unanimous among all those present. Great. I'll also note too that Glen Echo has an important story in our civil rights movement here locally, and the foundation has taken an important role in acknowledging that history and learning from it. And so this also would allow us to be in a better position to help ensure that that history is not lost and that we not repeat the same mistakes of the past. So that is an important component to this too. Great. Going back, colleagues, as Ms. Chen noted, there were pretty straightforward staff recommendations with regards to transportation projects, but given that Mr. Conklin is here in the audience, I'd like to give him an opportunity just briefly to talk about these projects from DOT's perspective, their importance, and just more for our community and those listening in, why these projects are important. Mr. Conklin.
Thank you, Council President. We've been tracking the opportunity for federal funding in our transportation sector for probably all of time, but even more significantly as the Infrastructure and Jobs Act has come under consideration and since been passed. The most significant item in the federal priorities is to ensure that our delegation is aware of our likely applications for new starts and small starts funding for the bus rapid transit program. Both of those programs had significant funding increases under the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. And there are some more immediate grant opportunities that are going in right now regarding bus and bus facilities, largely focused on bus shelter replacement, which has a widespread benefit to the community. And we've developed a partnership with the city of Gaithersburg that independently manages the shelters in their city to apply for that. And then last year we had submitted a RAISE grant application for hydrogen fueling infrastructure at our largest depot, and are pursuing that again through the low emission, no emission bus program. And that will be going in within the next few days as well. The other items that are in this priority list are trying to build on some of the new programs in the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. Number one is the community adoption of zero emission privately owned vehicles for personal use, and the supporting infrastructure for that. Those programs are largely geared at the state level, and we're hoping the delegation can help ensure that the state administers this in a way that they also provide community-based support for charging infrastructure. The next item in the list is funding transit operations. Traditionally, the federal government has not provided operating support for local transit initiatives. That was obviously different over the last 2 years with the pandemic, and we would like to see some opportunity or some work at the congressional level to continue that operating support over the next couple years while transit utilization continues to recover in the region, benefiting both Montgomery County and the region as a whole, as WMATA will be a significant recipient of any operating support that would be provided. Next is an application for the RAISE grant, which you're, I think, all aware of, that we're submitting for the Capitol Crescent Trail Tunnel in Bethesda that completes that link in the Capital Region Trail. That is also going in very soon, so these are very timely. The next one is prioritizing safety. There's a number of programs that don't yet have rules established for distributing the money under the Infrastructure and Jobs Act, and we would like those rules to allow application by local governments in addition to state governments to receive those money, particularly in support of our Vision Zero program. And then lastly is transportation demand management. As you're probably aware, we are pivoting from a employer and commute-based transportation demand management program to a community-based program that encourages use of transit, walking, biking for all types of trips in the county. And in many states, there are allocations of the congestion management and air quality program to support local transportation demand management programs. And we would like to see that applied in Maryland, and think our congressional delegation could be helpful in encouraging some local share of those funds that in this state are all used at the state level. So that's the brief summary. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about those priorities.
I don't see any questions from colleagues, so thank you very much, Mr. Conklin, for that overview. We certainly concur with those priorities. Ms. Chen, did you want to go through the other sections? I'll just note, while I've got the floor here, that as chair of HHS, very much concur with the priorities set forth, all of which have been discussed by all of my colleagues and I at length. Those priorities include expanded mental health services as part of COVID-19 recovery, as well as more funding and more of a focus on child and early childhood development, which with the development of the new entity that this council unanimously passed recently, we will be in a better position to receive federal funds than we had been before and leverage those with private resources. And of course, the other priorities include supporting our aging and disability residents, which were of course disproportionately impacted during the pandemic. And I also like the emphasis on dental care, which I know Councilmember Rice in particular, all of us, but he's been a real vocal supporter of over many years as representative on the HHS committee. So kudos to everyone in our federal delegation for those priorities. But Ms. Chen, I know that a couple of my colleagues have specific amendments that they'd like to add before turning to those. Was there anything else that you wanted to highlight in the packet?
No, not at this time. There were some edits on the cybersecurity priorities, but they were from this discussion recommended as submitted by council staff. If there's any comments on that, other than that, the rest were as is.
Great. Councilmember Friedson, I'll turn it back over to you to discuss the other amendment that you wanted to move forward.
Thank you very much. I'll just be very brief. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund, we talked about it. I raised it at both conversations with our senators. Senator Cardin, as the small business chair, has been really the leading advocate in the country on pushing for these funds. I don't need to tell colleagues here of how vital this is to many of our local businesses that are at the center of our communities, are so important and have been so disproportionately impacted over the last couple of years. We have taken tremendous, I think some of the most significant efforts at the county and at the state level to try to provide resources and funding in order to help them weather the storm. But the storm has gone far longer than any of us could have imagined. We said all along that we need the federal government to step up and step in. There have been some real challenges with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund and access to it for those restaurants across the country, and specifically in our community that need it. I think there's 177,000 local businesses that were or would have been eligible that were deemed ineligible before a court ruling changed the standard of eligibility. So with all that said, to back up the significant work that Senator Cardin is doing with the support of Senator Van Hollen and the rest of our federal partners, I think it's important that we put this forward as a priority and hope that we can add it to our list. And I'll just note, there's some developments recently. I'm happy to go into more detail or turn it over to OIR, but there could be some developments relatively soon on some positive aspects here. But ultimately, if this the funding does not occur as part of the coronavirus relief fund slowly working its way through Congress, then this will continue through 2022, likely and beyond. So I think it's certainly relevant to include as a priority to demonstrate to our local restaurants that we're continuing to push for them, not just locally, but nationally as well.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Friedson to include recovery within our important restaurant sector. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded from Councilmember Katz. Any discussion? Nope, no discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And that is unanimous among all those present. Great. Colleagues, did anybody want to say anything else regarding any of the other priorities? Councilmember Rice. Oh, and Councilmember Rice, you had noted that earlier and I missed it. My fault.
No, sorry. That's quite all right. So I did want to highlight a couple things for my colleagues. One being what Montgomery College has done a great job of partnering with our primary care coalition, Nexus Montgomery, to really talk about lifting underrepresented residents into healthcare careers and some of the great things that they're doing around getting folks into those career pathways that we know are so incredibly important. We saw them highlighted in the midst of the pandemic. And so just wanted to lift that up for attention, not anything in terms of that we need to do as far as an amendment, but certainly just appreciate that being highlighted. But one of the things that I had shared with my colleagues and with staff was that we have before us right now the Support Kids Not Red Tape Act of 2022. And throughout this pandemic, we have had USDA waivers that have allowed for us to serve meals to all of our children, regardless of socioeconomic status, understanding that so many of our families struggled during this time frame. And the last thing that we wanted to do was burden them with yet another paperwork process that they needed to get into instead of just making sure that their kids had a meal to eat. And oh, what a great thing it would be to ensure that when our kids go to school, they always have a healthy meal that's available to them and don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to go home hungry because they weren't able to afford a meal that day. This is incredibly important to all of us. I know we have supported efforts continuously as a council to step up and ensure that funding for organizations like MANA, organizations like Kind and others that are out there with backpack programs that are giving children meals on the weekends to supplement what we saw they needed during the week was incredibly important. And so I just really want to thank my colleagues for all of their great work, but also highlight that this is something that nationwide we need to do. If we are going to be serious about solving childhood hunger, if we're going to be serious about saying that we can actually focus on just educations, the 1, 2, 3s and ABCs of education and not worry about these other things that are out there, this is a key component of that. And it speaks to the physical and mental well-being of our children as well, something that you heard Council President Albornoz talk about repeatedly and is a part of some of the other federal funding that's there addressing the physical and mental health and well-being of our kids. So again, just wanted to lift that up and make sure, and I'm not sure if it was identified by staff as a priority, so I guess I should move it at this point and ask for a second, but certainly think that this is in line with where we've been all during the pandemic and where we need to be future forward.
Yeah, you saved me. I was going to do that too, and it was in my notes. I'm glad you did it. Thank you so much, Councilmember Rice. We have a motion on the floor. I'd like to second that one. And is there any discussion?
I saw Ms. Chen raising her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't see that. Ms. Chen.
I just wanted to note for everyone that on page A4 of the packet, there is a submission by Montgomery College on their priorities to build an inclusive healthcare workforce. So lifting underrepresented residents into healthcare careers. That links into Councilmember Wright's comment. Just wanted to flag that for you guys before we move forward.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor of Councilmember Rice's motion, please raise your hands. And that is unanimous among all those present. And I'm going to connect a dot here. Councilmember Navarro had convened several sessions about this specifically just a couple of years ago, and the importance of the cultural competency of the services delivered in addition to adding to the staff. And that was obviously prescient then, given everything that we've experienced these last 2 years, but it's good to be aligned with our federal partners on this as well. I think I've got a text coming in with a question from Councilmember Friedson. Councilmember Friedson?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to make sure as we complete this, that other than that, we're going to accept all the other staff recommendations. So I have notes and I just didn't want to go item by item. I figured we were just going to take them up in blocks. So I was just looking for clarification and confirmation of that, not board colleagues with a line by line, because I support.
No, absolutely. That'll be the next motion that I ask that we accept the staff recommendations as amended. So can I get a motion?
I'll move that then.
Great. Moved by Councilmember Friedson, seconded by Councilmember Rice. All those in favor, please raise. Oh, and a discussion, Councilmember Reamer.
I just wanted to clarify. So everything in yellow and red is a staff recommendation. It looks like a good recommendation, not around NIST to remove some language. Is that a staff recommendation? Okay, great. Agreed with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Navarro, I think you had your hand up. Nope. Okay. Oh, Ms. Chen.
Just to summarize, we are making a motion to accept, we've reviewed and accept the federal priorities list as amended by staff, by council staff, with an addition of the priority of Glen Echo Park, as well as an addition of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and also review and approval of the fiscal year 23 federal earmarks. Just want to make sure there's two things we're motioning and approving right now.
That is correct. All right, thumbs up from everybody. All those in favor, please raise your hands. And that is unanimous among all those present. All right, so that, I believe, is it for the packet. Just to be absolutely sure, so I don't have buyer's remorse here, the Montgomery College motion that you mentioned, that was included. Is that correct, Ms. Chen? I just want to be absolutely sure.
Yes, that was included. And also just to note for our record that Council Vice President Glass is in support of the approval to Glen Echo Park, making sure that's on record as well.
Terrific. All right, well then that does it for today. Pleasure doing business with everybody. Thank you all. With that, our state legislative session is adjourned. Or federal.